can't believe I'm actually saying this, but this was a good Tubi movie. It's called Play or Get Played. Check it out if you haven't. Ava would have loved to spend more time with her boyfriend, Lorenzo. But he has to get back to his wife. It's always a cause of argument because Lorenzo insists on going home despite his claims that he's about to get divorced. Before he leaves, he throws some money to Ava. "You're not even a mistress. You're a straight-up prostitute." The next day, Ava is surprised to see Lorenzo with his wife, Cherie. They look so happy, and Ava can't help but feel confused. Her friend Faith scolds her for being dumb. She says that Lorenzo will not get divorced and leave his pregnant wife, but Ava remains hopeful. Later that day, Lorenzo sends her a message, thanking her for acting civil. He promises to see her soon to explain himself. Ava is unaware that Lorenzo is banging her friend Faith, and that Faith herself doesn't mind being a side chick. Who needs enemies when you got a trifling friend? During their time together, Faith secretly calls Ava using Lorenzo's phone. She wants Ava to know that Lorenzo is juggling 3 women at the same time. But Ava still doesn't know that it is her own friend that Lorenzo's been sleeping with. Ava works at a maternity clinic with Faith. When Ava calls in sick, Faith tells the boss that she should write Ava up, but the boss side-eyes her. Later, Ava confides in one of the nurses, Misha, that she has relationship problems. She admits that her boyfriend hasn't divorced his wife, despite promising to do so. In addition to that, he's also seeing another woman. Misha thinks it's stupid of Ava to stay with the man who doesn't take her seriously, so she advises her to play or get played. All is well in Lorenzo's family home. It's because he plays the role of a good husband when he's not busy writing his mistresses. But later that night, he leaves again to see Ava. Is this the American Jonah C. Gomorrah? Meanwhile, Faith's ex-boyfriend DeAndre is back. His friend Will wants to throw him a party, but DeAndre is not interested in doing so. He's been avoiding Faith, but Will thinks that Faith is too beautiful to be ignored. So he asks DeAndre if he could ask Faith out, and DeAndre quickly gives his permission. As expected, Lorenzo visits Ava. He denies having another side chick and says he only loves her. Ava wants him to tell Cherie the truth so they don't have to continue their relationship in secret. Lorenzo promises he will as soon as Cherie delivers the baby. Then he asks Ava to wait just a little bit longer. So that night, Ava gives in to temptation once again, and she smokes his big pipe. Before Lorenzo leaves, Ava sees the picture of his unborn child. She starts to wonder if he can really leave his wife. One day, Ava gets shocked when she sees Cherie at the maternity clinic. Another nurse tells Ava, Cherie found out about the clinic when Faith mentioned it to her when she serendipitously bumped into Cherie at the grocery store. Faith is really that one friend who is secretly working against you. Her name should be Unfaithful. Later, Will finally asks Faith out on a date and says that he has DeAndre's permission, but Faith quickly turns him down. Lorenzo stays for a few hours with Ava before returning home to his wife. He says he's only doing it for the baby, but when he returns home, Lorenzo hugs his wife tight, saying that he's been too busy at work and is glad to be back. "Lord, I've seen what you've done for others. Please don't do this to me." When Ava mentions Cherie getting her regular checkups at the clinic, Faith acts shocked. Even though she was the one who told Cherie about the place, Faith even tells Ava to avoid Cherie so as not to cause problems in the workplace. So now Ava knows that Faith is a snake and can't be trusted. Misha, on the other hand, refuses to be friends with her coworkers because she thinks some of the women at work can be crazy.
Oh, you ain't lying about that.
Every now and then, Lorenzo and Faith meet to sleep together. Faith demands that Lorenzo give her the same attention he gives to Ava and Cherie, but Lorenzo reminds her that it's just sex between them and nothing more. She's furious, but I mean, you are a hoe, so he's gonna treat you like one. Cherie is at the parking lot when a man approaches her. This fat man is Brandon, Cherie's lover. Brandon is worried that the baby is his, so he wants Cherie to get a DNA test for the unborn child. It was 6 months ago when Cherie told him that he might be the father, but she soon changed her mind and claims that it's her husband's. But Brandon refuses to leave, so Cherie promises she'll consider getting the baby tested. To top it off, Brandon is married and already has 3 children. They fail to notice that Ava is listening in on their conversation. Lorenzo's brother Vic calls him out for cheating on his pregnant wife. He warns Lorenzo that Cherie might get back at him for being a serial cheater. But Lorenzo laughs it off, confident that Cherie will never have an affair. Meanwhile, Faith finds out where DeAndre is. She's always had a thing for him, but DeAndre doesn't want her.
I mean, damn, Dre, I know I'm not your dream girl, but trying to pass me off to one of the homies? is crazy.
DeAndre didn't reach out because he knew Faith would want to argue about the past. He met Ava first, dated and slept with her even before he met Faith. When he told Faith about it, she got angry, and even now she brings it up to fight with him. Faith is hurt because she knows that DeAndre came back for Ava and not her. No wonder this hoe is so salty over Ava. So, Faith reveals that Ava is not the good girl he believes her to be, and that Ava is having an affair with a married man who's expecting his first child with his wife. When Lorenzo visits Ava for dinner, she asks to talk about Cherie and the baby. She wants to know if Lorenzo is sure that the baby is his. Lorenzo finds the question ridiculous and says he's 100% sure that he is the father. Where's Maury Povich when you need him? But when Lorenzo returns home to Cherie, he can't help but notice that she's always on her phone. Doubt has started to form in his mind, but he chose not to say anything to her. The next day, Lorenzo confides in his big back brother about his worries. He explains that he and Cherie tried for years to have a baby, but now that she's pregnant, he's worried that the baby is not his. For Vic, Cherie has always had a good girl image, which is why it's difficult for Lorenzo to think she's capable of cheating. Vic thinks it's impossible for Cherie to remain unaware of her husband's affairs. However, no matter the explanation, Lorenzo can't accept the possibility of Cherie cheating on him. Cherie, on the other hand, is starting to feel guilty. She admits to her sister, Chantel, that she cheated on Lorenzo with a much uglier man named Brandon, and that she only did it to get back at Lorenzo for cheating on her multiple times. Chantel promises not to say anything to their family so as not to damage Cherie's reputation. Cherie doesn't want to get a DNA test for the baby. It would mean bigger trouble if the results show that Brandon is the real father. Still, Chantel advises her sister that getting tested is the right thing to do, not for her, but for the child. So Cherie visits the maternity clinic right after and asks Misha to get a blood test for her baby. Because the nurse asks for the reason, Cherie admits she wants to know who the father is. Misha asks her for a blood sample and a cheek swab from the male counterpart. Cherie was hoping to do it secretly, but Misha says the most ethical way is to have the potential fathers aware. So Cherie secretly gets Lorenzo's DNA from his mouth while he sleeps. I'm sure she could have just swabbed her own mouth since Lorenzo's DNA is usually in there. Faith follows DeAndre and finds him entering the hotel where Ava is staying. Ava is surprised upon seeing him, and DeAndre can't be any happier. He immediately admits that he returned for Ava, but Ava is quick to turn him down. After getting rejected, DeAndre expresses great disappointment. He doesn't understand why Ava doesn't like him, but has the guts to be in a relationship with a married man. Ava gets offended and tells DeAndre to leave. She knows that only Faith could have shared something like that with DeAndre. Because of this, Ava doesn't want to spend time with Faith anymore. Faith notices the change and asks Ava why she's acting out all of a sudden. Faith reminds Ava that she's always been a good friend to her. And if she's feeling angry, she should focus all her anger on Lorenzo because he's juggling 3 women.
You just too stupid to realize it.
Nah, I'm stupid.
You been stupid.
Boot this girl out of this bitch. Faith also admits that she can't respect Ava because she's not a bit respectable. However, she approaches Ava again after their work shift. She says she cares about Ava and never wants to hurt her, so Ava smiles at her and gives her a hug. Fake AF. After getting the test, Cherie meets up with Brandon to hand him the result. They are both relieved that Brandon is not the baby's father. Cherie later shows the document to Chantel to tell her that the baby is Lorenzo's. Lorenzo is currently with Ava, and she has cooked a meal for him. After tasting the food, Ava hides the spoon Lorenzo used. The next day, Cherie heads back to the clinic for a checkup. Misha excuses herself to check Cherie's files but promises to come back. However, her assistance is needed in a different room. So Misha asks Ava to tell Cherie that no more tests are needed and she's free to go. But Ava tells the opposite to Cherie and gets her blood sample. Ava even pretends not to know Cherie as she makes small talk about the upcoming addition to the family. Later, Ava has noticed that Lorenzo's been down lately. He looks so worried all the time. But Lorenzo's doubt eases a bit when he reads Cherie's diary. In the journal, Cherie wrote about how much she loves Lorenzo and their family. That night, Lorenzo realizes how lucky he is to have a loving wife. He is also more excited than ever because he strongly believes that the baby is a boy. He tells Cherie how much he loves and values her. The next morning, the guilt continues to eat him from the inside. He thinks that Cherie doesn't deserve all that he's putting her through. He can only imagine how he'd react if Cherie did the same thing to him, so he heads to Ava's place to return her keys. Ava's heartbroken because she can't live without his large eggplant. Lorenzo says he did love Ava before, but circumstances have changed and he wants to focus on his family. A few days later, Lorenzo receives an email from a clinic. The letter is a DNA result that shows he is not the baby's father. Cherie is on a phone call with Chantel when Lorenzo starts to confront her. He's beyond furious and can't believe that his wife cheated on him. Chantel overhears the argument, but the phone call abruptly ends. Lorenzo shows the letter to Cherie, and she is sure that the document can't be right. She tries explaining herself, but Lorenzo won't hear her. Fearful for her life, Cherie admits that she bent it backwards for a big back man named Brandon. Lorenzo loses it, falling down as if he hasn't been trifling all this time. Cherie blames him for everything and insists that she only cheated to get back at him for cheating on her. For the first time, he puts his hands on his wife and proceeds to strangle her until she dies. By the time Chantel and the police officers arrive, Cherie is already dead. Lorenzo is arrested, and after an investigation is launched, Faith is arrested soon after. She is charged with fraud and professional misconduct. The clinic staff have been gossiping. According to the officers, Faith mailed a fake DNA test result to Cherie's house. However, the truth is, it was Ava who sent the mail with the fake results. She has decided to get back at those who hurt her without getting her hands dirty. Sometime later, she sends the authentic DNA result to Lorenzo in prison, and he is devastated to learn that he killed his own child. But it's already too late, and he'll be serving his sentence for a very long time. This was actually a very enjoyable Tubi movie. The acting was decent, and Cherie's grunts when she was getting strangled were too real for me. What did you guys think of this one?
Did y'all like that one? Honey, well, make sure you like and leave us a comment. I try to respond to as many as I can. And if you like Tubi, Lifetime, or just straight up trifling movies, make sure you subscribe for real. For more videos, you can click here or here.